You're thinking about buying a home, but you're curious if renting is smarter for you for right now. Well, you're not alone. My name is Jaricka. I'm the founder of Saving Sense, and I am helping you today learn how to make smarter financial decisions for yourself for now and future. With rent on the rise or not lowering and interest rates just continuing to be high, this actually causes a lot of people to make very rash or uncertain decisions. And when you are considering buying a home, this is the, if not one of the single most expensive purchases that you will ever make in your entire life. And you don't want to take this lightly. I want you to make very careful decisions about your money in most areas, but this is one that you just should not play with for sure. Let's start with the pros of buying a home. So, first and foremost, you are going to build some equity and you're going to have more money later on, not right now, but later on because you are building on an asset, right? So having a home, having property, having land is considered an asset. An asset is something that helps you gain over time or has a specific gain right now that will continue to build over time. Another good benefit of having a home is fixed payments. So this mostly pertains to the principal and the interest on the home. Those payments are fixed. The only things you can't really control are the always are the taxes and the insurance. But these are things that you can help to negotiate for if the prices start changing. So you have a lot of freedom here, and that's a really good thing. Freedom to customize your space. So I will say something that I've really enjoyed in my house is painting, doing home projects. We've done tons of projects since we moved into this house. From the first few months of living here, we started doing projects because that's what was fun for us, and we wanted to make the space feel like it was completely ours because it is. It's our house. We can do whatever we want. Um, but yeah, you have the opportunity to do as much as you want when you want without anyone telling you otherwise. Now, of course, there may be some things that I don't know, your HOA may say, you can't have a yellow door. Okay, fine. But in that case, then don't buy a home with an HOA. HOAs aren't totally bad. Ours is pretty good, but they may have some specific rules, but that's mostly to help with keeping up the valuation of your property in the neighborhood so that you can actually still have a really good return on your investments when you're buying a home. Potential tax benefits. So, right now, the good thing about having a home is that each year that you have a home, you're going to have tax benefits for having that property. Of course, you pay property taxes and things like that, but ultimately, you still get some tax benefits for having a home and how much you paid into the interest and into the principal and etc. And then there's also things like homestead and things like that where you can help kind of reduce costs of taxes and everything. So it is an asset that has some governmental stipulations, but ultimately you're still going to win when you have a house, especially if you keep it for a long period of time. If you're someone who just buys a house and then the next year you're like, I'm moving out, you may not get that much of a tax benefit, especially when you're not staying in it long enough for amortization and things like that to kick in. And for the long term use of that asset to actually pay forward for the benefits that you're going to receive. Now let's talk about the cons of buying a house. So first and foremost, the upfront costs are ridiculous. Down payment, closing costs, inspections, etc. There's so much that goes into it, and you're like, this fee, that fee, this fee, that fee. Like, where is your money going? You have no idea. And thankfully, when we bought our house, the program that we qualified for did not require us to put a down payment and did not require that we have to pay PMI, which was a good deal in my eyes. But not everyone qualifies for programs like that, and we still had to pay uh, more than $11,000 to get into our house for sure. And we basically almost depleted our savings account to get into this house. That is a lot of upfront costs that you will never see, right? We didn't even put a down payment down. So we didn't even put in equity that we would receive back. That was just the costs. We don't get that money back. That's not an asset that we will see again later. That is just closing costs and inspection fees and etc. So Depending on what you qualify for, speak with a really good realtor that understands and specializes in your situation, especially if you are a first responder or a healthcare worker or an educator. Speak with a loan officer. Look up different programs for first-time homebuyers. We didn't qualify for a first-time homebuyer loan because of our income, which I didn't even think was that high, but apparently we made too much money for a first-time homebuyer loan. But look at programs that you may qualify for. Look at your pre-qualifications, get that done, which you could submit and get that pretty instantly within like 5 or 10 minutes. And then when you're ready to start really shopping around, then get your pre-approval and go through that process. But it's expensive. The upfront costs are expensive. Responsibilities financially, you have to pay for every single maintenance, every single repair, every single piece of insurance, and it just never ends. I don't want to be a party pooper for the home buyers that are potentially wanting to buy a home. But I will say it is frustrating when things just break or something sounds funny and you're like, should I ignore that or should I look at trying to hire someone? Because this is getting expensive. Thankfully, our seller offered to pay for the home warranty for the first year, which kind of came with our agreement. Thankfully, because our refrigerator broke down and then we had plumbing issues twice, and then we had a garage break, and then we had an HVAC issue, and then we had irrigation problems. And our house is fairly new. We have a beautiful home, but things just happen. When you live in an apartment, half the time you don't even see that these things are happening because the apartment is taking care of it for you. And if you do have a problem, you just put in a work order, you call them up and say, hey, we got an issue. And they're going to take care of it. Why? Because it's their asset. They have to take care of it, not you. You're just paying to live there. So that's nice. And then of course, less flexibility. Uh, if you're someone who's thinking that you may leave your city in 1 to 3 years, or you're not sure if your permanence is going to be impacted in any way, it may not be time for you to buy. If you're not planning on staying somewhere for at least 5 years, it just may not be a good time to buy. And like I said in the video before in part one of the series, if you decide that you need to leave and you just get up and leave, you still have to pay for every single thing that's happened. You still have to pay to keep the yard up kept. You still have to pay for the electricity. You still have to pay for the water to be on. You still have to pay the your monthly payments. None of that goes away. When you're renting, you can just up and leave, right? But when you bought that house and you need to go, if you didn't sell it right away, and we're in the market that we're in right now, you were still financially responsible to take care of that house just as you were living in it. It's as simple as that. And also, including that, depending on the time that you're trying to leave, it may not be a good market where you're going to get a really good profit out of that house. So whatever amount of money that you've put in, if you didn't stay that long for that house to amortize with the payments that you've put in, you may come out breaking even or not really having anything to gain for it at all. And it really depends on the market. You can't really time it. No one can time it. Not even the best realtors and real estate investors in the world can time the market. That happens with the stock market. That happens with the housing market. It's just that simple. Now the pros of renting. So um, I'm going to be super positive about this because I really believe that renting is a good thing. And I loved renting when I was a renter. I really had almost no complaints. Besides, I didn't really like all the neighbors all the time. You can't really control for that, especially when people are loud or annoying. But other than that, the ease of living was just a lot simpler, in my opinion. So one of the first pros is going to be the flexibility. So like we were kind of talking about, the con of being in a house is inflexible. The pro of being in an apartment is very flexible. If you decide, you know what, next year we don't want to live here anymore, great. When your lease is up, you can just go, and you can figure that out, and you can make that change without a whole lot of fees. And so, of course, be ready. I'm a former RA and hall director, so I'm always ready when I'm in an apartment to fight back on costs and fight back on fees and expenses and things like that. That's something that you need to be prepared for. But ultimately, it's still cheaper than trying to sell a house when you're ready to just up and go. Lower upfront costs. So, like I said, with housing, before you have to pay sometimes down payment, closing costs, inspections. When you're in an apartment, mostly you just have to put down a deposit, and most times you get that deposit back. So that security deposit, it's not going to make or break your wallet, and it's not going to be a couple $1,000s like buying a house will be. And then, of course, the stress of maintenance is really not up to you. Now, if you got ongoing maintenance issues, then yeah, maybe it's time to go ahead and switch. But that's kind of a good buying power in your favor to negotiate with that apartment. One apartment that I lived in before, we had an AC breakdown twice in a span of a month. And because the problem was not solved after the first time, they gave us the second month 50% off, which was kind of nice as a little convenience gift for having an ongoing issue that we were assumed to be in a resolved position for the first time. So really, really be intentional about your negotiation power and just recognize that like not every inconvenience means that you just suffer the consequences. You deserve something in return. Like have that mindset for sure. I go in with that mindset every time I'm inconvenienced by something that I paid for. Absolutely 100%. And then also, if you are in a position where you're trying to build up your savings or build up your credit, renting is a really great solution, right? So if you are someone who's like, hey, I eventually want to buy, but I just can't right now, or maybe you want to move to an area for a little while and fill out the area before you buy, rent first. Check out the region, see if this is a place where you want to be, if you're okay with the prices that you're paying in other areas, if you've looked at homes and you've visited neighborhoods and you've kind of seen how the properties and the real estate is developing around you, whether that be commercial buildings, restaurants, homes, etc., and just get a feel for the environment, and then you can act out. Then you can act on that when you're ready to buy the home, but this allows you that time and that flexibility to do so. Now for the cons of renting. Number one, everyone thinks this, and everyone's probably been told this at some point in their life. Renting is throwing away money, or you are paying someone else's real estate. I really hate this, but yes, there is some truth to it. But I do believe that it kind of puts some shame on people who are renting. But ultimately, yes, the truth is you are not building any equity. No, you're not throwing away money because you're paying for a place to stay. But you're not building equity. And yes, you are in some form or fashion paying for someone else's real estate, whether that be the person who owns the house or the company who owns the property. So I don't want that to be discouraging. And no, I don't want you to feel any shame about renting, but that is the con. The con is you are not building any equity towards renting. But also the same could be said if you buy a house and a year later you sell it. You haven't built any equity in a year because you've mostly paid interest and you've also lost a whole lot of money to closing costs and things like that. So if you're buying a house prematurely, knowing that you may not be staying there for 5 years, and you end up selling the house and you haven't like exploded in equity, the property hasn't exploded in a year, which normally nothing does, then yeah, you've lost equity that way too. But in that case, you might as well just rent. But ultimately, no, you're not building any equity. But no, you're also not throwing money away. You're paying for a service. The service is you have a place to stay with maintenance and all of that being taken care of. Another con to renting is you don't really get to pick your neighbors. And there's a lot of back and forth with that. You can't pick your neighbors with your house either, but you can definitely pick how much space you have between neighbors, and the type of place you're going to stay in, and if you having neighbors even matters to you. But when you're renting, no, you don't get any control over that. I know whenever we had our last apartment, I hated having the neighbors above me. They were just loud. They would throw things into the backyard, which my dog would go out there and would like sniff and eat crap she didn't need to be sniffing and eating. And it caused a lot of issues. And I tried my best to talk with the apartment managers about it. They didn't do anything. So the RA and hall director and me kicked in, and I had to go handle that myself. And that's just never fun, but I'm always willing to do that because vet bills are expensive, and I was tired of my dog getting sick. And so yeah, I mean, there's just not a whole lot of control within your immediate environment, especially if walls are thin and you feel like I can hear the person next door. I'm sure they can hear me too. And it just doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of privacy there. If that's the case, then look at renting in other areas or look at, seeing if you want to pay a little bit more to be on a corner or, between a corner and like a storage room, like those things help. We had an apartment once before where we had one part of our wall that faced the outside and the other part of our wall that faced a huge storage closet. So we didn't hear anyone, and that was fabulous. And that was actually a really nice apartment. We had issues with the maintenance people and things like that with some privacy issues that ended up occurring. But ultimately, we didn't have a single issue with our neighbors, so that was kind of nice. We really picked a good spot when we went to view and tour that apartment. But another con I would probably say is just that the pricing may change, but that's going to correlate with the pricing of the housing market as well. If homes in the area are going up, apartments are probably also going to go up too, especially because that's going to increase property taxes for the region, and then their prices are probably going to change. Now, you do have some negotiation power, especially if they're building more apartments around you and they're offering promotions or they're offering like, 1 free month of rent, and you can kind of split that over the term of your loan or over the term of your lease. um, you could use that as negotiation leverage when you go talk to your property manager and let them know, hey, I really love living here. Um, I've been a loyal resident at this apartment. I've paid my rent on time. I'm quiet. I don't cause any issues. I would really love to stay here, but the cost is a little high for me. And I see, down the street or next door, they're offering this deal. Is there any way that we can do that deal and just kind of use a little bit of leverage because it's easier for them and it's more cost effective for the complex or for the leasing party to keep you than it is for them to lose you. So really go in with the negotiation because you do have a lot of power when you negotiate. But if you're just accepting the terms because they said so, that's kind of your loss. And really, a lot of people do that, but it's actually better if you just go ahead and do the negotiation. Don't lose out on money just because they sent you a letter with the terms. Like you can go in and talk about it. That's for sure. So, to close this out, I want to encourage you to definitely just think about what means most to you for your current situation and what your goals are for the next 5 years. Right? Like I said before, if you are gonna buy a house, but then you end up leaving in a year, you have thrown some money away because you've paid all of these costs and these fees to get in. You didn't allow for any time of amortization to happen because all you did was pay interest that first year. Pretty much, you paid almost nothing, and then you left. So you might as well just stay renting if that's the case. But just consider, what does my timeline look like for me, from a professional standpoint, for my family? If you're like, hey, we want to buy a house, but we plan on having kids, and if we do, we're gonna move back closer to our parents, then maybe don't buy, especially if you don't believe that you're going to be there for a period of time in which you can actually benefit from the equity. Now, if you're a first time home buyer, this may be the case. If you're someone who's had a home before and you're going to be kind of transferring, but you're not really sure, but you know that you have some equity that you want to transfer over, then fine. There's some math that needs to happen there, but this is very specific to my first time home buyers, so I'm being very intentional about the information I'm giving you today. But if you're someone who's had a house for 20 years and you move somewhere and you kind of just want to transfer that asset over, then cool. You probably need to talk with a realtor that really specializes in that, and a loan officer that specializes in that too. But the most important thing that I want you to take away from today's conversation is, of course, the pros and cons, but I do not want you to feel any shame or FOMO because you are renting. And had we known what we know now about the home buying process, me and my wife have already discussed this, we would not have bought the house. Not at the timeline that we did. Because ultimately we just didn't know what we were getting ourselves into and the amount of money that we had to put up for, maintenance and all of the fees and expenses. And it's just a lot. It's a lot of stress that we weren't ready for, because when we rented, a lot of those things were just taken care of for us. So no, don't feel any shame. We felt a sense of shame, I think, when we were, being told, "Oh, renting is throwing away money," and blah 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 blah. Like, now we know. Don't listen to anyone else. Like, just do what you want to do. I know plenty of millionaires. I've been mentored by people for business, and I've followed people online who are certified millionaires who do not own any real estate because they can invest their money in other ways and be smart about it in other ways. There's no shame in renting. But when you are ready to buy because it's the right time for you, right? So just like I talked about in the auto loan video that I had done previously, buy when it's the right time for you. That's it. You do not have to listen to anyone else. It's your money. If someone's telling you to buy, but then you have all these expenses that you're not ready for, they're not going to come foot the bill for you because it's yours now. It's your responsibility. So don't take on something that you're not ready for. But I do these videos because I want you to feel educated and I want you to have a better understanding and some clarity about what you need to expect. It is a ton of money. And if you just feel like I just can't put that up right now, that is okay. Because what we did, I would not advise. We put all of our money into all of the closing costs. We had no emergency fund. So if something had happened within a month of us moving in, we would have been screwed, or we probably would have gone into debt trying to cover it. Thankfully, nothing happened, and we were just kind of riding on luck to make sure that we could keep things taken care of. But that wasn't the smartest move, and I would never suggest that anyone do what we did when we bought our house. We've gotten really lucky. We're very fortunate that we were able to start saving and that we had a financial understanding to get ourselves ahead and build up our home fund so that we can take care of things. But not everyone is in that situation, and I understand that. So I really want you to be mindful of the financial position that you need to be in. Talking about an emergency fund, I want you to have 3 to 6 months. If you are a 2-person household with 2 incomes, 3 months at minimum, at least. If you're a 1-person household and you're like, hey, it's just me, 6 months, because you can only rely on yourself, right? So have that emergency fund available to you when something happens so that you are not scraping for money if you cannot work or something breaks and you're trying to get that fixed, but you want to protect yourself against other hazards. But buying versus renting, I really want you to be smart about how you make that decision and when the timing is right for you. Just be clear with yourself, be honest with yourself, don't have any FOMO. There's never a perfect time to buy. There's great times and there's not so great times, but there's never a perfect time to buy. The best time to buy is the time that is right for you, when you feel ready and you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. So I want you to first check out part 1. If you have not watched part 1, I'm going to link that here to the video. Part 3, we're actually going to talk about a whole lot more of the home buying process and house hacking. So if you are someone who's thinking, I kind of want to buy a house, but I think I might want some other people to kind of help me out with that process. As far as, the costs and the fees and everything, there are some really good things that you can do by house hacking, and I'm going to address that in the next video. So I want you to first check out part 1 of the video. If you're curious about, other ways that you can get your debt to income ratio lower and pay things off so that you can be more ready for a home, then check out the other video that I did on auto, because I do talk about the debt payoff strategy. I'll also link the debt payoff calculator that I've created for free just for you in the bio of this video. But if you like what you saw today, I want you to like, subscribe, share with someone who's either giving you pressure or is feeling too much pressure about the home buying process. And I want you to just let me know what you think, and let me know if there's anything else that you want to learn about, because I can definitely tie in a lot more information for you if there's something a little bit more specific that you'd like to know about. But thank you for your time today. I hope you found a lot of value in this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.